feeling warm in any sunshine.
Hello, I'm Ben Thompson. You're watching The Context on BBC News.
The decision we've now made is make sure we train pilots so that we are able, if we would decide to send fighter jets, that they're already prepared.
For now, at least, the Western alliance is united, despite, as ever, the talk in the margins of occasional concerns.
I think the merit of Ukraine taking their time now, Russia's on the defensive. They have time, they can build up better supplies, build up a better picture and proceed.
Hello, welcome to the programme. Russia is preparing for a major Ukrainian offensive with vast defences set up in key areas in the south of the country, including Crimea. We'll have all the details from our new BBC Verify team. It has been investigating. Also on the programme today, we'll bring you the latest updates on the search for Madeleine McCann, who disappeared in southern Portugal in 2007. Police are to search around a reservoir near where the British 3-year-old girl went missing. And we will look at the political headaches that greeted Joe Biden and Rishi Sunak on their return from the G7 Leaders Summit in Japan. The Prime Minister, well, he's met with his ethics advisor over what to do about Suella Braverman. The Home Secretary was caught speeding in 2022, and she asked the Civil Service for advice on arranging a private speed awareness course. She says, though, she is confident that nothing untoward happened. Meanwhile, President Biden, well, he returns to the negotiating table in Washington for talks with the Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy about raising the debt ceiling. There are, of course, just 10 days until June the 1st deadline when, if there's no agreement, the US will default on its debts. Lucy, really good to talk to you. Thanks for being with us. Lucy Fisher there, author and Whitehall editor at the Financial Times. You're watching The Context on BBC News. Stay with us.
A day of history in the making.
Europe, are you ready? Got to be good looking 'cause he's so hard to see.
Truly awe-inspiring.
Come together right now.
That was fabulous.
Over me.
This is the moment. They will say, I was there.
Hello, I'm Ben Thompson. You're watching The Context on BBC News. President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy meet to discuss the debt ceiling crisis as the US Treasury warns of a catastrophic default if there's no deal. More on that for you coming up. Before then, let's get the sport. For a full roundup, we can head to the BBC Sports Centre, and Mark is there. Hiya.
Good evening, Ben. Only one place to start, and that's in the Premier League as Newcastle and Leicester City go head-to-head. There's a lot riding.
Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't it? Emma, really good to have you with us on the programme. That's Emma Moore-McLuhan there, Chief Analyst of Technology at Global Data Research, Data Analytics and Consulting Company. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much more for you still to come on the programme. We'll be back at the top of the hour with the headlines for you. You are watching The Context from BBC News. See you soon.
As fighting continues in Ukraine, join our team for the latest developments.
There's now a massive effort to rebuild what's been destroyed, but what happened here will never be forgotten.
See the headlines as they happen with breaking news alerts in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.
Hello, I'm Ben Thompson. You're watching The Context on BBC News.
The decision we've now made is make sure we train pilots so that we are able, if we would decide to send fighter jets, that they're already prepared.
For now, at least, the Western alliance is united, despite, as ever, the talk in the margins of occasional concerns.
I think the merit of Ukraine taking their time now, Russia's on the defensive, they have time, they can build up better supplies, build up a better picture and proceed.
Hello, welcome back to the programme. Russia is preparing for a major Ukrainian offensive with vast defences set up in key areas in the south of the country, including Crimea. We'll have all the details from our new BBC Verify team. It has been investigating. Joining me for the next hour is Gita Harry, formerly Downing Street Director of Communications for Boris Johnson, and Joel Rubin, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State who served in the Obama administration. With them, we'll assess the latest manoeuvres in Ukraine and what it tells us about what could happen next. We'll also look at the political issues greeting Joe Biden and Rishi Sunak as they return from the G7 summit in Japan. The Prime Minister, well, he's met his ethics advisor over what to do about Suella Braverman. The Home Secretary was caught speeding in 2022 and she asked the Civil Service for advice on arranging a private speed awareness course. She says she's confident that nothing untoward happened.
It's so off the charts mad at one level that it's just got to be sorted.
Watch this space. We'll see 10 days until that date X, June the 1st, when the US says it could run out of money. Thank you to you both for now. You're watching The Context on BBC News. Stay with us.
Want to understand what the news means for you? BBC News Catch Up on Sounds is a new playlist that puts you in control and lets you explore the stories you're interested in. From breaking headlines...
There's been a wave of missile strikes across Ukraine.
...to deep dive podcasts and current analysis.
The longer the conflict goes on, the more chance there is just something happening that leads to an escalation.
Make sense of the stories you care about whenever suits you. Open the BBC Sounds app, tap podcasts for News Catch Up.
Hello, I'm Ben Thompson. You're watching The Context on BBC News. The US Republican Senator Tim Scott has launched his campaign to be the Republican nominee. We will talk about that some more and what it could mean for that presidential race in just a few minutes. But before that, Facebook's owner Meta has been fined $1.3 billion for mishandling people's data when transferring it between Europe and the United States. The fine, issued by Ireland's Data Protection Commission, is the regulator's largest ever imposed under the EU's General Data Protection Regulation privacy law. That's GDPR. Those rules require companies to seek people's consent before using their personal data. Meta says it will appeal against the ruling. Let's talk to the panel. And Joel, there's an element here, isn't there, of Europe taking on a huge American firm and saying, hang on, if you want to play in our territory, you got to play by our rules. My thanks to them. Much more on the website, bbc.com/news, if you want more on all those stories. Headlines up for you at the top of the hour. But I'm Ben Thompson. Thank you for watching The Context.
Hello, I'm Mark Edwards with your sport. We're going to start at St James's Park, where Newcastle United are on the brink of qualifying for the Champions League for the first time in 20 years. At the moment, we're into injury time and it is still goalless at home to Leicester City. We'll come back to that after a few of our other sports stories and show you a bit more action in just a moment. So we'll come back to that very important game for both ends of the Premier League. Meanwhile, Liverpool have contacted the Premier League's professional referees body, asking them for an explanation about two decisions which went against them in the 1-1 draw with Aston Villa on Saturday.